Well, happy anniversary to Beacon Light. I thought that we'd do something a little bit different, and that is allow you to appreciate this place that we call Beacon Light when you begin to understand where we've come from. I can't think of anyone who could tell a greater story of the history of this particular church than myself, since I somewhat have a role to play and I understand from the very beginning. You know, it was on January 23rd, 1981, that a small group of Christians met at the Tommy Tucker Daycare over on North Miro Street to make a serious decision about their future church home. In fact, right after that meeting, the first worship service was held on January 25th, 1981, under the leadership of Reverend Kirk Byron Jones. You know, I appreciate this man of God who still yet shows unto me great love and favor, and I just appreciate how that the Lord used him in the very beginning, and the name Beacon Light Missionary Baptist Church was chosen to emphasize a Christian's responsibility to let their light be as a beacon shining brightly to guide others to Christ. I thank God for those saints early on in the beginning who gave of their blood, their sweat, their tears, their money back in 1981 as they were putting together this church. On June 16, 1981, they formulated the church charter and purchased the property at 1551 Mirabeau as the church home. God began to prosper Beacon Light in the early 80s, but it was in 1985, in July, that Reverend Kirk Jones resigned as pastor to pursue higher education in preparation to teach. And he began to teach and go as a student at Andover Newton. In fact, Pastor Kirk Jones and his precious wife Bunny, now they live still there right outside of the Boston area. And I'm just excited to see how now he has become one of the greatest writers of this day, write for worldwide magazines that are distributed. And I'm just blessed to know that he has a history and a connection with our church, Beacon Light. So we honor and will continue to cherish the ministry of Reverend Kirk Byron Jones. In May of 1986, Reverend Dwight Webster was elected as pastor. On June 17, 1990, Reverend Edwin Rudy Scott was elected as pastor. And then in May of 1992, Reverend Scott resigned as pastor to birth a new ministry. It's quite obvious that after Reverend Kirk Jones left, Beacon Light began to go through a series of storms and challenges, even from what I understand within the church. I've heard so many stories, some of which I will not even bring up and would even mention to you, of some of the carnal, challenging things that they went through even as a congregation. But you know what? Something happened. On July 3rd, 1993, I, at the tender age of only 26 years old, was elected pastor of the Beacon Light Baptist Church right here in our city. God began to bless us and prosper us. Of course, I bless and thank God for the training I received there at Greater St. Stephen. 7 months later, in February of 1994, we had to add 2 worship services because we could not accommodate the masses. Our little church was jam-packed to capacity. We began to institute our 8 a.m. and our 11 a.m. And then that year, we also instituted our transportation ministry for members who were in need of transportation to and from worship services. And we began to utilize our church vans to go all over the city to bring people to our church. Due to the phenomenal growth, then 3 services had to be implemented: 7:30, 9:15, and 12:45. Around that time, we also instituted our second Sunday night communion service, which was held at the Church of the Holy Comforter. We used to call it the Church of the Hot Comforter because it would be so hot in there and jam-packed. People will be coming back even at Sunday night to receive the Lord's Supper. And the Church of the Holy Comforter, eventually we purchased it and it became our temporary location, our tabernacle location, as we called it at that time. In March of 1994, we founded and established the Darrell S. Brister International Ministries. God began to bless us as we would allow our ministry to go all across the nation and even all across the world. On January 26, 1996, history was made as I was consecrated to the highest office of the Lord's Church, the office of bishop. I was only 29 years old and the youngest at that time to be set apart to that holy office. I still remember that particular year of 1996. In April of 96, we held our resurrection service at the Sanger Theater. Thousands of souls were saved. During that time at Beacon Light, you just never knew who would show up. And I'm just grateful and thankful for how our ministry was used as a light in a dark place. In July of 1996, our membership reached 6,000 people, and there were over 50 in-house ministries. In September of 1996, we would begin to hold our annual Word Explosion, which would be held at the Mahalia Jackson Theater Performing Arts, or Greater St. Stephen, or any large venue. It blessed my heart to be able to bring all of the spiritual superstars and allow our members to be up close and to be able to receive those national ministries. Bishop Paul S. Morton would come, my father in the faith, Bishop Nate Holcomb, Vicky Winans, Marette Brown Clark, Darrell Coley, Michael Pitts, Byron Cage, Oscar Brown, Bishop Fred Caldwell, Trinity 5-7, Marvin Winans, Marvin Sapp, Bishop Eddie Long, Bishop T.D. Jakes, Shaka Khan, Bishop David Martin. You just would not know who was going to show up. Pastor Paula White, Yolanda Adams, Pastor Deborah Martin, Rance Allen, John P. Key, Carlton and Gina Pearson, Bishop Clarence McClendon, Vicky Yohe, Harold Ray, Carolyn Shoel, Bishop Dennis Leonard, Helen Baylor, former Mark Moriel, Ray Nagin. We just didn't know who would show up. And we were just grateful and thankful because like a magnet, people would be drawn. In November of 1996, our fall tent revival was held on our land in the Paris Oak subdivision. We then instituted our tabernacle location, doing anything that we can to accommodate the masses of people. And all of a sudden, our neighbors began to complain because we would be too loud. I was just a young pastor full of zeal. In August of 1997, we purchased the property, which was formerly known as the Pap Supermarket, for our future church location. In October of 1997, I released my first book, Exposing the Enemy. I still remember, with 8 more books to follow: The Monster Within, Recovering from Ruptured Relationships, Don't Fight the Process, Talk to Me Afterwards, Look to the Hills, Doing Right in the Wrong World, Against All Odds, and of course, Living the Dream. In 1998, we declared that as the year of Jubilee. Within 5 years, our membership swelled to over 7,000 people, and over 4,000 walked the aisles under the leadership of our ministry. We were baptizing almost every month, hundreds of souls. In June of 1998, we held our worship services at Southern University of New Orleans because, again, of the need of space while we were building our sanctuary. And then March of 1999, we entered our promised land and dedicated our new sanctuary with a Victory Week celebration. How excited we were. In August of 1999, the Darrell S. Brister Bible College and Theological Seminary was established. In September of 1999, we purchased the property at 5134 Paris Avenue for our Beacon Light Chapel and Education Annex. In October of 99, our Vision to Victory telecast began, airing in New Orleans, in the New Orleans area, and began to bless many people. Watch this.
Lord, thank you for your marvelous light. We are looking to the future. The future's looking
2001 was declared as the year of promises to possession. In January 2001, we celebrated our 20th year church anniversary. In June 2001, we are grateful and thankful because God allowed us to purchase our very own Beacon Light aircraft to enable us to travel safely, to go all over the nation as the nation was calling conveniently and comfortably and still ministering to this particular church as well as the masses all across the country. In 2002, we declared it as the year of pursuing order and expecting increase. In August of 2002, the first school year for the Beacon Light Christian Academy. Bless my heart to see young kids being able to come and grow in a great Christian environment. In September of 2002, we became Beacon Light International Baptist Cathedral. Our new name reflects our personhood, who we were and what God had called us to do. We were an international ministry spreading the gospel all across the world. In 2003, we declared that the year of unusual opportunities. In January 2003 is when we branched out and purchased the property in Houma, Louisiana. March 2nd, 2003, was our dedication service for Beacon Light of Houma, which was the first ministry birthed out of our international cathedral. Within the first month, over 1,000 souls united with the family of light through our Houma location. On April 7, 2003, Elder Herbert Andrew was installed as the senior pastor of Beacon Light of Houma, Louisiana. We were on the move. November of that year, 2003, we had the dedication services for Beacon Light of Hammond, Louisiana, which was the second ministry birthed out of Beacon Light, Bishop Darnell Johnson at that time. In September of 2004, I installed Elder Terry Carter as the pastor of Beacon Light of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And then 2 days later, I also installed Bishop Darnell Johnson III as the pastor of Beacon Light of Hammond, Louisiana. Then to start the year off in 2005, I installed Serge Francois as the pastor of Beacon Light of Haiti at New Orleans. And then, of course, August of 2005, we know what happened on the 29th when we found our church 13 feet underwater and we found ourselves in Houston, Texas. During that time, Pastor Darnell Johnson, who was pastoring the Hammond location, relocated, and then I installed Pastor Dennis Hebert Jr., Beacon Light of Hammond, Louisiana. In November of that same challenging year is when we founded Beacon Light of Houston. I remember clearly how we went from the Dulles Auditorium to Texas Southern University, to the Stafford Civic Center, to Pastor Terrence Johnson's church, to Dr. Ivy Hilliard's church, going all over Houston, Texas, trying to find a place where we could settle and allow God to be glorified. And finally, the Lord allowed us to acquire the 501 Murphy Road property there in Stafford, Texas. January 2006 is when we returned our ministry back here to New Orleans, utilizing Greater St. Stephen on the West Bank location at 3 o'clock p.m. Many of us still yet remember how God still yet sustained us in these most difficult and challenging times. And then eventually we made our way to what is now our temporary home, the Crystal Palace. We've been here now since October of 2009. Look at how God has still yet sustained this ministry. He has still yet kept our ministry. And one storm after the other, God still yet continued to speak peace and to show us great favor. Well, now we celebrate our 31st church anniversary. To God be the glory. Only God could have kept us and sustained us and brought us to where we are. And now we are just months away from going back to what is our home, 1937 Mirabeau. And I know that as great and as wonderful as the cathedral was, it shall be even greater with a greater anointing and a greater joy. Thank you for all of your support. Many of the saints who have come and many who are now in heaven, we are just grateful and thankful for this place called Beacon Light. Now to see what God is doing, even there in our $3 million sanctuary there in Houma, Louisiana. I'm so excited because we just closed on 14 acres of land there in our Hammond location. And we're in the final days now of negotiating there in our Baton Rouge location while we are preparing to rebuild here in New Orleans. God's favor is upon my life and upon the life of my sons. I'm thankful for Lady B, and I'm thankful also for all of my daughters in the faith who stand right along their husbands. Beacon Light International Ministries, God has called us for such a time as this. So again, we are grateful and thankful, and we simply say happy anniversary to this place called Beacon Light.